Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I guess let's get started, shall we? Everyone having a good time at DerbyCon so far? Awesome. Can everyone in the back hear me? What? Exactly. A little louder? Okay, cool. I got this. It's all a prop. More on props later. So welcome to Silent Compromise, Social Engineering Fortune 500 Companies. So I am Joe Gray. Before we get started, the thoughts and opinions are mine and mine alone and do not represent those of IBM. About me, I'm a senior security consultant at IBM. Got some teammates in here right now, actually. I won the DerbyCon Social Engineering Capture the Flag last year. I'll spoil the next slide. I got my black badge yesterday, so I'm kind of stoked about this. But anyway, my team got third place in the OSINT Capture the Flag at NOLACon, the Password Inspection Agency. I was in the Navy, I was on subs. It was kind of boring, really boring actually. I have my blog and podcast, Advanced Persistent Security, and I tap out a lot in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when I actually train. So there's the black badge, as you've seen live and in person. This is a picture from the closing ceremony. Anyone who knows me knows that I very rarely, if ever, shut up. I was rendered speechless that day, which is quite an accomplishment, I suppose. So about the talk itself, the concepts. We want to talk about OSINT and how they lead to the social engineering attack. Social engineering is more than just putting together a poorly worded email and spoofing their CEO and getting somebody to click something. The more effort you put into the OSINT, the better you're going to do. We're also going to talk a little bit about data collection methods, some of the attack methods, social media, and then we need to talk a little bit about your organization's OSINT footprint because chances are it's weak. How to do the training and how to incorporate it with the incident response plan. Before we get started on anything social engineering, we need to look at Cialdini's 6 principles of persuasion. Every social engineering attack uses one or more of these principles. I always like to make fun of used car salesmen whenever I'm talking about the principles of persuasion because they are the most notorious for abusing them. So to start out, reciprocity. You pay an extra $200 for this car, I'll take you out to dinner. Oh great, I'm gonna get you to take me to Ruth's Chris. Good, I will make that $200 worth it. I will make you eat your words. Commitment and consistency. You've always bought cars from me. I have never done you wrong. I am committed to getting you the best deal possible. Social proof. When you're there looking for a Volkswagen and they say, oh, you're a 30-something-year-old male. Don't you want a 2-seater or a Corvette? All the men your age are driving them. Really? Okay. Urgency, scarcity. I purposely skipped authority. More on that in a moment. Oh, man, there was somebody, he was just looking at that car. He went down to the bank to get financing. If you can get financed before him, it's yours. Black Friday is nothing but urgency scarcity. We've got this like $19 78-inch TV, but we only have one in stock. And no rain checks. That's urgency scarcity. Back to authority, I'll tell you a story of when I lived in Georgia. Very briefly, I was trying to buy a car. I go there, they give me the quote. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. This number looks higher than what you were showing me online. I want to see the itemization of this. Well, okay, Gap insurance was there. That wasn't on the website. Okay, I had just wrecked my car. Gap saved my skin, so great. There was a warranty on there. Okay, I don't want this warranty. Take it off. We can't. Why? Well, in the state of Georgia, there's a law that says that you have to buy a warranty. Really? That's news to me. Can you point me in the direction of the law? Can you give me the name of the law, the statute code, whatever? Oh no, it's not published. That's not how any of this works. I'm going to delete you off my wall. I go back and forth a few times and they finally say, okay, well, we'll take it off. Okay, good. Well, because I'm not going to pay it. And then they just kept on going. And then the guy going down the street to get financing, they tried that. One major logic flaw. It was a Sunday. My response was, what kind of bank are you sending people to that's open on a Sunday? I mean, USAA, I don't think they have anything in person. They may. Navy Federal, I mean, serving the military, they're not even open on Sundays. Why would any other bank be open on a Sunday? So, good try. You've tried to deceive me not once but twice. Bye-bye. That's just an example of how they misuse these principles. And when you relate it to something like that, it makes it a lot more easy to digest. My final nail on this one would be, who here has met a salesperson that didn't at least attempt to be likable? I know we've all met our share of unlikable salespeople, but how many at least attempt to be likable? Right? So, props. When you're doing social engineering, you need props. This right here is a picture of me in the booth last year here. In that circle is my binder of doom, which had all of the OSINT on my targets. It had my pretexts, all my phone numbers, everything. On top of the binder was a wireless keyboard connected to nothing. As I'm making the calls, I just start clacking on the keyboard, making all kinds of sound to simulate taking down the information they're giving me, because my pretext was I was operating under the authority of someone doing a survey. You have to enter what people tell you on a survey, right? So that's what I used. Office noises, I used that this year at DEF CON's SECTF. I had a Bluetooth speaker in the booth with me playing nothing but office noises. It was a little distracting in the beginning, but it sounded realistic. One of the flags in the social engineering capture the flag is, who is your trash company? Who cares who the trash company is, right? Well, here's why. If you show up in Eastern Tennessee at a facility wearing a waste management shirt and tell them that there's a problem with their dumpster, that you're not going to be able to pick up their trash because there's something that prevents the truck from lifting it and you have to manually inspect it. You could even go as far as to say that the trash truck driver has been lazy and been lying about these a lot, and you're just going to validate it. You can go right up to their dumpster. You can breach their perimeter. You could go into their building, or you can get a few bags of trash, put it in the back of your truck, and you're done. Uniforms go a long way. Toolboxes. Doesn't matter what's in the toolbox. You could have a Wi-Fi pineapple. You could have a bunch of rubber duckies. You could have foam pellets. It doesn't matter. Ladders. That's Jenny Radcliffe's favorite. She says she can get into any place with a ladder. I don't think she climbs it either. I don't know. But either way, donuts. If you go to the smoking area of any facility, you can stand there and watch. Someone's going to come with a dozen donuts and a cup or two of coffee, and people are going, those smokers are dedicated. We know this, right? 10 degrees below, and they're still out there shaking to get their fix. They will break their neck, put their cigarette out to let someone in that has donuts thinking they're going to get a donut. You can even give the donuts, you can give them a donut, it doesn't matter. You could legitimately have coffee. You could always spill that on your paperwork once you get in and get someone to feel sorry for you too. But you could also stuff your coffee cup with, say, a Raspberry Pi Zero that emulates a Wi-Fi pineapple or other malicious wares, something to that effect. There's a lot of things you can do with that. Badges. Just so you know, I know you really can't see this, but it's a badge that appoints me as the state password inspector. At the conclusion of my talk out in the vendor area, I will be inspecting passwords for free to ensure that you're compliant with code. Badges get you in. Doesn't matter if they work, but it's a sense of authority. You're supposed to be here. That's why they're effective.
Can you say where the law is that you have to inspect passwords? Can you show us the number?
I actually have there's a GitHub repository that actually has the code for inspecting passwords. If anyone wants it, shoot me a DM on Twitter and I will send you the code. So yes, I can back up my statute via a URL. So when we talk about the Fortune 500 companies, I didn't target all of these companies for this presentation, but just to show that I am not playing favorites on who I collected information on, for the purpose of this, there's the top 10 of the Fortune 500. I don't think we really care about their revenues, we just need to know which ones are the top 5. So now that we understand who we're targeting, let's understand how we're targeting. So we have the ethical hacking and attack process, right? The 3 boxes here illustrate the phases that this will be useful in? Reconnaissance. Well, let me translate that. OSINT. Do your OSINT, find out what's going on. You don't want to burn a Windows exploit on a company that's only using Mac or only using Linux. You've got to find these things out. It's somewhat applicable in scanning and enumeration, not quite as much. Gaining access, there's your social engineering. Convince someone to let you in. Technology typically doesn't fail. People do. Layer 8 of the OSI model is the problem. So why am I going to waste time going through doing everything in the world to be able to get a low-level privilege on an internet-facing server that has no ability to pivot when I can just call the CEO's secretary and get her to download a malicious document that just gives us a backdoor? Priority of effort, right? Not to say all that technical stuff's not fun, but if you're doing it under a time budget, this is going to be more expeditious. So as we talk about the OSINT overview, Bill Nye is being pretty creepy, I'm not even going to lie. But anyway, where do we get it? So this definition is from the CIA's website. Despite what you may think or feel about the CIA, they do have the word intelligence in their agency title, so I would say that they might be an authoritative source for this. But anyway, basically they say that you get it from publicly available material, geospatial information, maps, mass media, conference proceedings. IEEE is infamous for that. If you present at IEEE, you have to submit a formal paper, not just an abstract and an outline like you do for, like, say, DerbyCon. It's an actual formal IEEE formatted paper. That's going to give information about you, what you're doing, and whoever you're with. Understanding that those conferences are more academic, you can find out what colleges are involved with things, who's sponsoring it. You can get the contact information of the person who presented it, a lot of things from that. Photos, of course. 2 years ago here, Josh Huff did an excellent talk about reverse image searching, and it was all predicated on the fact someone had bragged about gas prices, took a picture of the price on the gas pump, and he found out who they were and where they lived based on the reflection of their vehicle in the gas pump. That's some hardcore OSINT. And then for everything else, there's the internet. So geospatial, you say, there's Berkshire Hathaway. They're Fortune 500, wouldn't you say? But right there we see an address, 3555 Farnham Street. If you ever wanted to know what it looked like. So what do we see here? There's a dumpster. It's green, and that logo looks a lot like Waste Management. Google does typically try to blur that out, but sometimes they just don't do it good enough or they miss. But that's just one example. Not to mention you can scope out other things and see if they have a doorbell there at those garage doors so that you can ring it like my friend did walking down the street yesterday. Looking at you, James. Anyway, so more initial recon. I love Bloomberg.com. You go there. This is for Walmart, so again, I'm not playing favorites. They're just number one, so sorry. But here we see that they have other domains, such as jet.com. Some of the others, we have their address, their phone number. We have a number to spoof, because chances are the phone number that's listed there is actually a shared number where you actually have to have an extension to get in. So if you call someone from that, it's probably not out of the ordinary. Especially for someone like a company like Walmart that has such a distributed model, all those stores, they're not going to see it as an internal number as it would if you were targeting someone at home office, right? And of course, you can take a look at, you can do what I like to call the drive around via Google Maps, Bing Maps. You should use all of them actually. Don't rely on one because one may blur out something that someone else didn't, or because of the difference in the timing of when they were actually photographed, something may have changed. For example, for my target last year, one of the pictures I found on Bing Maps had a big brown boxy truck backed up to the building. Boy, that's a lot of bees. But one of the flags is who does their shipping. Well, that kind of gives it away because there's only one shipping company that has those infamous brown trucks. That's just one example. More initial recon. Here's domain tools. With this one, it's ExxonMobil. With this, you can find all sorts of good stuff. Find out their IP ranges. For some companies, you might even get names, emails, and phone numbers of real people, as opposed to domain privacy or webmaster with a generic number. You might get specific information. You can find out about net blocks. You can get their ASN and look and see if people are already phishing them or if they're reported in Fish Tank. Another thing you could do, quite honestly, is you could see what else is co-located on those same IP addresses. It's just one piece of the puzzle. So the application of OSINT, right? Again, this is the reconnaissance phase. We need to build that dossier. We need to know who we are. We have to get into character. For anyone trying to start out in social engineering, if you're in college and you want to take some classes that will make your job easier, take improv, technical writing, psychology. Join the drama club. Because you get into character. Whenever I'm out in town and I'm messing with people as Donnie Butts, the name on my state password inspector, you're actually going to hear something of my accent. Hello, my name is Donnie Butts, and I'm the state password inspector. I'm on loan to the state of Kentucky. I'm normally out of South Carolina, but I need to take a look at your password to make sure that it is compliant with the code. That's in character, because the accent is out. I'm saying I'm from South Carolina. The accent fits. There you go. I even have a hat that says County Password Inspector, so sometimes I get loaned to counties too. It's wild. But anyway, you've got to have that dossier. You've got to have your character, and your character must play to their dossier. For example, if they use terms like associate, like Walmart does, or home office, like Walmart does, you need to know that. You're going to find that out via OSINT. You can also use it for competitive intelligence and threat intelligence. The best social engineers in the world, and the people who are some of the best people in OSINT in the world, are salespeople. Sales is social engineering, and when you're doing lead generation, there's a lot of OSINT involved. So, what do we try to collect? What are we going to do with it? What's the objective? Where do we start? Do we go after the people first or the business first? I say go after the business first. And because at the end of the day, you're targeting the business, not the people. The people are stepping stones to get into the business. You don't need to know that Sally is having baby daddy problems, right? You could use that, but honestly, you're not targeting Sally, you're targeting Sally's employer. So it's all things that we need to think about. With the data, after you collect it, how are you going to protect it? How are you going to dispose of it? So here's the biggest set of differences between the Fortune 500 and your mom and pop joints. Again, these are somewhat assumptions. There definitely could be instances where it is not accurate, but a Fortune 500 company is more apt to have robust security measures. Why? Because they are mandated by various laws such as Sarbanes-Oxley, FFIEC, or if we go across the pond, GDPR. Sorry if I made anyone throw up in their mouth. But they're mandated to have things. So they're going to have at least something. It might not be done right, but they're going to have something. Publicly traded, that's going to factor in with Sarbanes-Oxley. Because of that compliance, they're probably going to have a training program of some sort. It might just be something like if they click on your fish, or on a simulated fish, they have to do their know before training. Or it may be something where they actually have to sit in a room for 8 hours once a year, as my target last year had to do. I found an employee complaining about it on Facebook. When you talk about large companies, and again, IBM is not a target, but I have some semblance of how many employees there are. There's almost 500,000 employees at IBM. The probability of me knowing somebody else across the world is very low. A mom and pop place, not so much. At my last company, they had a total of 75 employees. Everybody knew everybody. So there was no spoofing any of that stuff. I'm sure some people would still fall for it, but either way. So these are just things to look at. A lot of the smaller companies may not be as forward-thinking with security. They may not have the budget or even the inclination that they need a security program or a security employee. The probability of that is very low. The other thing that I didn't put on the slide is the larger companies within those security measures, there's a better chance that you're going to have a badge, there's going to be a gate, large monitored parking lot, security guards, some of which may be armed. And I mean, I can run faster scared than a lot of people can mad. I can't outrun bullets. And those dudes, some of them have really good accuracy. They're not like stormtroopers. So what am I really saying? Based on this comparison, the attack surface is really the same, but in different ways. The fact that with a smaller company, they don't have the security person, they don't have that full-time employee, they don't have the expertise that they need. Okay, that's alternated with the large company because I can call and say that I'm Sony Tark with Stark Industries. Got a badge for that too. Skydog and I are badge buddies. Anyway, the probability of someone knowing what Sony Tark sounds like is low, right? So it's just one of those things that it's a trade-off. The concepts are really the same, but to be honest, the Fortune 500 companies are often easier to collect the OSINT on because there's so much more stuff. When they're publicly traded, that opens up SEC filings and all the stuff within Edgar. There's all sorts of things there. It's not to say that there aren't small publicly traded companies that are going to have that same information, but SEC Form 10K is amazing. So what's the next steps? We need to have the repository of people. Yes, I said we target the business first, but we need to target the people within the business because that's who we're going to need to build a rapport with to be able to get them to tell us things or do things for us. So at a minimum, you might want their name, their title, their phone number, and their email, depending on the scope of what you're doing. I don't really like using the automated tools to like store all of that. So spreadsheets work just fine. Text file, fine. Enumerate the people. My favorite places to do it, Pipple, Family Tree Now, and True People Search. All of them can be found on Michael Basil's inteltechniques.com under tools, or you can go to them automatically. I cannot sing the praises of Intel Techniques enough. But nevertheless, social media, you can go on LinkedIn. Everybody is the director of something or the chief something officer, even if they are the junior chief janitorial officer. I mean, yeah, exactly. The chief assistant to the chief something officer. Exactly. When we're dealing with tech companies, Twitter's a better resource. Some people are on Twitter that aren't in tech. I didn't know that, apparently. I guess I'm in my echo chamber there. But nevertheless, there are things on Twitter. My target last year, I found a vice president for that company who missed a meeting in Amsterdam because he got delayed on a United Airlines flight in Newark. I could have fished him from United Airlines. I could have fished him being customer support. I can go to United Airlines website, get a phone number, or do something and have them call me back so I get the legit number and call and apologize to this guy and just get some verification information. What's your last four? What's your first five? One of my favorite questions in surveys on the topic of strange questions, I like to ask, what was your mom's name before she was married? Most of the people in this room would actually, if caught off guard, would probably answer that because I did not say, what is your mother's maiden name? That's what I'm asking for, but that's not how I asked. Another good one, and I've actually seen this one work as well. I was doing phishing against it was kind of a government-ish. I'm trying to stay as vague as possible, so we'll just say government-ish. So I called up this lady, we were talking. I was like, can you give me an example of a previous or current password that you use? Bubbles14. Thanks. So the magic of phones. I have a thing that I do that I call battle dialing. It's like war driving and war dialing, but this is the short game. We're not running the long game. So within battle dialing, what you're going to do is you're going to block your number, so *67, and you're going to call every number that you can find within that organization. You're going to mute your phone, because again, this technique I started using whenever I was competing last year. One of the rules is you cannot communicate with that company before you're in the booth. So I muted my number so I couldn't communicate, so that I could either A, hear their voice, see if they answer, which is very important because the key to winning that competition is getting people to answer the phone. If no one answers, you can't win. But at the same time, if I got their voicemail, not only could I find out their name, their gender, their title, I find out a few things. Verify it's a live one, and then when you know what time you're going to compete, you could call. Or you know you're going to call Friday at 3:30 because that's what the scope within your statement of work says. You call a few Fridays at 3:30 and see if they're in. That way you're not wasting too much time dialing and then not having the success. Do that after hours. That's another one. 1 o'clock in the morning was my favorite time to call my target. If you hit the directory, I dare you to put in Johnson, Smith, or Williams. You're going to be sitting for a minute getting it. You're going to be harvesting a lot of phone numbers. But again, you need to mute your phone because with this, silence is bliss. For numbers to spoof from, I'm a huge fan of using fax numbers because they can call it back, but the fax machine can't rat you out. It should set off some suspicions. They should report it, but you're not getting outed immediately. For my target last year, I actually found their Microsoft Office 365 email migrations issues phone number. That's what I spoofed, and it worked. So with email addresses, you gotta have the syntax. Is it their initials, first dot last, first initial, what? Find out how it is. You can test that in Recon NG. I forget the exact name of the module, but it is there. I think it's email tester, if I recall correctly. Check for breach data, for have I been pwned. That also gives you a good idea of their security posture and how people use their work emails. My work email is used for one thing, work. I'll go off and buy some cheap 99-cent domain just so that I can route email into it that's not work stuff. So that's just how it goes. You can use these tools to harvest. I'm a huge fan of Recon NG and Datasploit. I'm just now warming up to the Harvester and Spiderfoot, but they're there. Hunter.io, that's another really good one. It's meant as a sales platform. It's like the, I think it's the LinkedIn sales connector that you can install into your email, and when someone sends you an email, you get their LinkedIn profile up on the right side of your screen for free, by the way. So that's always something useful as well. But you want to actually validate the information, and it is called Mail Tester. I see it's my final bullet. I try not to even look at the slides when I'm presenting, so sorry. But now we have this stuff. We don't want to be like these guys, the underpants gnomes from South Park, because they know they're going to collect the underpants and they know they're going to do profit. What is step 2? We collect the OSINT and we exploit. What is step 2? You only want relevant information. Again, you don't need to know about every problem. You need to know what's relevant, how you can build rapport, and how you can execute it. You don't want to go too far. You don't want to be those Australian DJs that called the hospital when Kate Middleton was in the hospital, got the nurse to put him through, get a status check, and then the nurse that put him through ended up killing herself. Social engineering never needs to go that far. I've had debates with people about the topic of doing this against criminals. I wouldn't even push a criminal that hard because at the end of the day, everybody needs their day in court. I mean, we see it all the time. Cops are wrong sometimes. The legal system is wrong sometimes. That's just the way it is. So there's no reason you should go and get deep into this person's psyche and push them to the point of going that far. Keep that in mind. Pretexts. Again, this has everything to do with getting in character. When we talk about pretexting and getting into character, Catch Me If You Can is the perfect movie if you want to understand how that works. So when you do it, one of my favorite pretexts. Hi, I'm operating under the authority of someone. Notice those principles of persuasion coming up. When you know someone's name, if you know their CISO's name, you know their CEO's name, You know the mayor, you know the governor, whomever. You know their name. You drop that name and say, I'm a contractor with so-and-so operating under the authority of so-and-so else. Number one, they can't look you up in their global address book, which yesterday in the SECTF, I saw one company, they were scrounging through the global looking this person up. And then every time they would put the caller on hold, and my guess is probably call the actual person to verify. But either way, if you say you're a contractor, then they can't look you up unless they work in contracting, and then you might be up the creek on that one. You might want to use something else. But if you say that, and you say, we're doing a survey, or we have an external audit coming up, and last year we got fried for not having this, can you please help me? According to Chris Hadnaghi, those are the 5 most important words in social engineering. As people, we tend to try to help people who ask for help. So in doing so, using that for influence, people will give you what you want. So when we talk about the fish, my favorite fish, as you're taking a look at this slide, I was doing an engagement with a client. They were a grocery chain. Their CEO was retiring in a week. Their COO was taking over. They were confident that I wasn't going to get them. They were like, we're going to catch you. I was like, yeah? All right, cool. They're like, yeah, we've got all these technologies. I think it was like Proofpoint and maybe Mimecast as well. I'm not sure. And they subscribe to some threat intelligence feed. They're like, yeah, we're going to get you. I was like, okay. Don't make me feel like a jackalope. But anyway, so I go off. I do some information gathering. I find that their CEO is retiring. Their COO is taking over. I find some press releases, get some direct quotes out of those. They had a .com. I went and bought the .us that went alongside it. So I didn't spoof anything. I got a Google account with that domain so that I could send it. Spun up an identical clone of SurveyMonkey on a DigitalOcean droplet. Mind you, everything I'm telling you, it comes in for under $25. Buying 2 domains, a $5 DigitalOcean droplet, and a $5 Google account for the month, that's cheap. But anyway, I had the .us to their .com. I found out the syntax of their emails. Actually got their COOs out of office, so I stole his signature. So then I wait a few days. The contact's like, hey, I've not seen you yet. I'm like, winter is coming. I don't think I really said that, but I really should have. But anyway, so I send the email. I fly low and slow. I don't blast. That sets off alarms. So I send about 10 or 15 at a time. 3 hours in, I get blocked. That's not before I get about 2/3 of the emails out. And approximately 43% of the organization not only had clicked the link, but had input the information. Because the SurveyMonkey clone had a high-res image of their logo. The domain was like employee satisfaction surveys dot something, whatever, right? It was a really long one, so if they opened it on their phone, they couldn't tell the difference. But anyway, it said, please enter your company email and password. Great. I didn't even run a database with this. I passed that information to the Apache log using GET requests. So why use a database, right? It's more work, and sometimes you even have to have the port open. There you go. And if anyone here has ever used DigitalOcean, you know how hard those things get hammered by the bots. So as few ports as possible. Nevertheless, so the next page was 4 password reset questions. What school did you attend for elementary school? Where did you go on your honeymoon? What is your favorite pet's name? And what's your mother's maiden name? The next page. We coded it wrong, actually. By accident, it had an eternal loop in it. So it looked like the screen was vibrating. But it said, sorry, this survey is closed. Before we sent the email, we're like, should we fix this? I was like, no, leave it. Give them a chance to report us. Let's see if we get reported and blocked. We did. But 42% of their employees gave me that information. Because the email said, as you know, such and such is retiring. He's done great work for the owner-operators, whatever they called their employees. They didn't say employee, associate, or anything like that. They had a very specific term they used. I used it there, direct quoted some press releases, sent them to a bit.ly. Took them to that page. Oh, it has HTTPS because I used Let's Encrypt for the right price of free. So that whole look for HTTPS thing, yeah, null and void. Either way, what's worse is about 2 weeks afterwards, I'm going into that Google account to make sure there's nothing there before I delete it. Someone had added the now CEO to a bunch of sensitive mailing lists and was getting lots of sensitive data to this fake account. I packaged it up and I sent it to my contact there, and I don't feel comfortable repeating what he said on stage. And I had the mouth of a sailor. So that is a supercharged fish. But you need to know, are they using SPF? Are they using DKIM, DMARC, which would be Sender Policy Framework, Domain Keys, Identified Mail, or Domain Message Authentication, and I think it's Reporting Compliance. Are they using Mimecast or Proofpoint? What do you have to get through to get in their inbox is the question. And the thing is, if you squat on the domain, like the example on the screen, if you squat, you don't have to worry about getting caught spoofing by something like SPF. And the thing is, if you use O365 or Google as your mail client, even if they are using that, mail.google.com is in protection.outlook.com's list. It's almost universally accepted. You don't have to worry about the reputation of anything of that sort. You don't have to worry about your IP address getting put in a threat intelligence feed, because who's going to put Google in a threat intelligence feed? Well, pranksters probably, or ignorant people, but who in their right mind would put mail.google.com in a threat intelligence feed or something that's going to catch it? It's a way to subvert it. I like using the long subdomains, like employee satisfaction survey dot something. You use that, again, for the screen. And then for collection, this is a very important thing, and it's also a reference to one of my favorite bands from my teenage years, Superjoint Ritual. You need to use once and destroy. So when you collect that OSINT on a host, or you collect all those passwords, as soon as you've got the information you need out of it, like download the files, encrypt them somewhere, delete it. Because at the end of the day, these people are still your customers, and you still have an obligation to protect their information. It would be irresponsible just to leave it there. I wouldn't even just delete the files. That's why I like DigitalOcean. You just delete the droplet. Sure, it probably persists somewhere. Yeah, okay. But that's going to be the case with anything. If you're doing it within your network, and you're using like something like, say, Kali or Buscador, delete it, use the VM, delete it, restore from snapshot with no data on it. So with the Vish, you should always incorporate your phishing and vishing together if you can. At a previous position, a former coworker who's in the audience and I, we called up a bank, we spoofed Legal's number, we fed him a crock about how somebody we know needed a survey done. He was the CFO, and the bank had been robbed a few months prior. We brought it up. We're like, this kid's trying to get an internship with the FBI, and he wants to know the financial impact of events like that on banks. He's talked to BB&T, he's talked to Bank of America, he called SunTrust. One of them even threatened to call the law on him. Okay, yeah, I'll help. Okay, what email address do I give him? Gave us his work email. We send it. It was nothing. All I did was take him to a website that says, thank you. He clicks it not once, not twice, not 10 times, but 15 times. Then 5 more on his phone. Okay? He emails me back. Hey, buddy, that link didn't work. Can you send it to me as a file? So I walk about the 15 feet to the pen test practice lead's office. I was like, hey, I need a macro-enabled Word doc, like pronto. Oh, here you go. Cool. So I send it. He opens it. We see that he opens it, but he closes it too quickly so they don't get the shell. When he opens it the second time, his AV won't let it execute. Oh, crap. So he emails me back. He said, there was something wrong with that file. I want to help you, but you're going to have to send me the right file. Because my pretext was I was a college student, my response was, oh, I'm so sorry. I have class tomorrow. Let me get it from my professor. So I get a very malicious document. It's an executable with an Excel icon on it. I try to email it to him. Google won't let me. I put it to Google Drive. They scrub it. I have to encrypt it to put it in Google Drive. I encrypt it, I send it to him. I said, hey, the professor's got it password protected. It's on Google Drive. Here's the link. Here's the password. He had local admin and subsequently allowed domain admin. So your keys to success. Do it timely. I like to give W-2s in January. I'm like the king of W-2s. Oprah loves to give away turkeys in November. She loves to give turkeys to turkeys. Regional events or holidays. If there's a beer fest coming up, like we're actually here, if you really wanted to get somebody, hit them with a bourbon fest. Be like, hey, do you want free tickets to this upcoming bourbon fest? Click here. It would work. Insurance, open enrollment. Well, it's that time of the year for most of us right now. So send out open enrollment information for people. They'll do everything for you. SurveyMonkey, of course. So see what usernames people use. How can you reuse it? Look for the gold mines, the GitHub, the repositories. Get information about the domains. Build your dossier and use it to build a report. Regarding training, do more than the annual requirement. I like quarterly. Have role-based training. HR faces different problems than accounting, than contracting, than management, than tech. Have training relevant to their role. Use automated solutions or pay somebody to do it. The biggest thing I will tell you here is incorporate it with your IR plan, for one, and for two, if you're doing OSINT on your company, pay someone else to do it so you do not betray your employees' trust. Let the person you're paying filter the information for you so you only find out relevant things or the things that make your skin crawl. Like the person that posted a picture of his badge. So it's like, wow. So while I've got the stage and we've got a few minutes left, take a look at Brian Austin and my mentoring platform through Peerless called Through the Hacking Glass. Basically, we're trying to fit in doing the things that academia doesn't accomplish and the things that you can't really do with the certification. We're still building stuff out very slowly, but it's coming. We're in desperate need of mentors. We've got about 200 people signed up, and only about 20 of them have signed up to be a mentor. So keep that in mind. My upcoming speaking engagements, GridSecCon, I'm giving my social engineering training, then Cybersecurity Atlanta, and then I'm co-presenting with InfoSec Sherpa at Temple. And I don't even want to think about 2019 right now. So, any questions? Yes?
You mentioned about that comment about Sally and her baby daddy. Have you encountered any moral or ethical issues with the information, whether it's you or somebody else, with the information that you've gathered, where it could be extremely personal and damaging to a person, and how I can handle it?
So the question is, have I ever encountered anything that could be morally or ethically sensitive in my collection efforts, and how did I approach it? When I was on the phone with the lady that told me Bubbles 14, she also told me another password, buttermilk. So to build rapport with her, I tell her a story about how I used to like buttermilk and cornbread with my grandfather. She started crying because her husband had died 2 years prior. His birthday was coming up. It was going to be on Thanksgiving this year, and that was his favorite food. I didn't break character. I stopped the engagement. I wasn't going for any more information, and I just sat and I talked to her for at least 15, 20 minutes to make sure that psychologically she was in a good place. It hit home for me because I had just lost my uncle 5 months prior. So it was hard. There may have been somebody cutting onions in my office that day. So I went to my manager and I was like, hey, this just happened. Here's how I handled it. I'm not doing any more calls today. So